While I was away, my parents sold my car to help my irresponsible brother. So I tracked it down, bought it back, and cut them out of my life. My mom cried, but we were planning to pay it back. But you won't believe what I discovered next. I found out by accident. When I returned from my business trip, I stepped out of the taxi, exhausted but relieved to be home. The cool evening breeze felt refreshing after the long travel, and for a moment, I let myself unwind. Then I saw it. My usual parking space was empty. No, it wasn't just empty. It was taken. In its place sat a battered sedan with a missing hubcap. My stomach sank. My breath slowed, and my body tensed as I stared at the space where my car used to be. Maybe I had parked somewhere else before leaving? No, I never did that. Slowly, almost mechanically, I pulled my keys from my coat pocket. The cool metal pressed into my palm, familiar and comforting. My keys, my car, my rules. Or at least, that's how it was supposed to be. A chill ran up my spine, and I gripped the keys tighter until their sharp edges dug into my skin. My heart pounded in my ears as I turned and walked inside. I could still remember the day I bought it, how I had sat at my desk night after night, calculating, budgeting, cutting out every unnecessary expense just to make the down payment. I worked extra shifts, stayed late, turned down vacations, and skipped nights out with friends. The moment I signed the papers at the dealership, my hands trembling with excitement, was one of the proudest of my life. It wasn't just a car, it was proof. Proof that I could take care of myself, that I didn't need to rely on anyone. And now it was gone. Mom, where's my car? My voice was sharper than I intended, panic already creeping in. Mom and Dad sat at the dining table, looking at me as though they had been preparing for this moment. They knew exactly what I was going to ask. Dad cleared his throat. Sweetheart, we had to sell it. A wave of cold spread through my chest. The words didn't quite register at first. You what? Your brother needed help, Mom quickly added, her voice almost apologetic. Almost. You know how much he's been struggling. He needed the money. A sharp, searing pain bloomed in my chest. Of course. My brother. The family's delicate little prince. The golden child who always needed help. The same brother who dropped out of college, refused to keep a job, and somehow always ended up in trouble, yet never faced any real consequences. And now, once again, I was expected to pay for it. I tightened my grip on the keys, feeling the ridges cut into my palm. My fingers twitched, wanting to throw them across the room. Instead, I let out a short, humorless laugh. You sold my car, the car I bought with my own money, without even asking me. Dad sighed as if I were the unreasonable one. You have a great job, sweetheart. You can buy another one. But your brother, you weren't even using it while you were away. Mom cut in, her voice getting defensive. I stared at her, jaw tightening. Excuse me? It was just sitting there, she continued, shifting uncomfortably under my gaze. And your brother, he's been going through a lot. We thought you'd understand. A hot wave of anger washed over me, stiffening my shoulders and making my hands curl into fists. My nails dug into my palms, sharp and punishing, grounding me in the moment. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to stay even. Where's the money? Mom hesitated. Well, we already gave it to him. Of course they did. I could already picture where that money went. Probably another failed startup idea or some luxury gadget he needed for work. My brother never changed because he never had to. There was always someone willing to clean up his mess. I exhaled slowly, then looked down at the keys in my hand. Just a few minutes ago, they had meant something. They had symbolized my independence and hard work. Now they were nothing more than useless metal. I let them slip through my fingers, the sound of them clinking against the floor echoing in the silent room. They thought they had taken something from me. They thought I'd let it go, that I'd understand, like I always did, that I'd sigh, swallow my anger, and move on. They had no idea. Tonight, I wouldn't waste my time arguing. I had better things to do, because tomorrow morning, they would wake up in a completely different reality. I barely slept that night. Anger, disappointment, and a deep sense of betrayal swirled in my mind, not allowing me to find any peace. Every time I tried to close my eyes, my mother's dismissive face, my father's exhausted sigh, and the way they justified selling my car as if it were the most natural thing in the world kept flashing before me. They expected me to just accept it and move on. They had no idea who they were dealing with. By the time the sun began to rise, my plan was already taking shape. I got out of bed, stretched my aching limbs, and walked over to my desk. My laptop powered up, and I opened a new document to start typing. I needed a list, a clear breakdown of everything I needed to do. Find out who bought my car. If it had been sold to a dealership, there was a chance I could buy it back. If it was sold privately, I had to track down the buyer. If the money had already been wasted on my brother's nonsense, I needed to make sure they would never touch a cent of my money again. Secure my finances. I had to change all my banking passwords, remove my parents from any shared accounts, make sure they had no access to my savings, confront my brother. He was the true culprit here. If he thought he could take from me without facing any consequences, he was about to get a reality check. With the list complete, I took a deep breath. This wasn't just about a stolen car. This was about reclaiming control, showing them that I wasn't their personal ATM, their backup plan, or their silent, obedient provider. They had stolen from me. Now I was going to take something from them. By mid-morning, I found myself sitting in a quiet corner of my favorite coffee shop, sipping a strong espresso while scrolling through my phone. My first call was to the local DMV. I pretended to be inquiring about a recently sold vehicle using the car's VIN number, one I had memorized long ago, to request information. The clerk on the other end was polite but firm. "I'm sorry, but I can't release that information to anyone except the registered owner." Fine. That was expected. I had another way. I logged into my old insurance portal and checked my policy. There it was, the cancellation notice. My car had been taken off my insurance just 2 days ago. A new name was listed under the transfer. Harrison Auto Sales, a used car dealership. Perfect. The dealership wasn't far, only a 20-minute drive. I borrowed a car from a trusted friend and headed to the lot. The place was nothing fancy. Rows of mid-range sedans and SUVs, a few overpriced sports cars, and a small glass-walled office at the center. I walked inside, scanning the room until I spotted a tired-looking salesman in his late 40s. His name tag read Mike. "Morning," he greeted me with a professional but uninterested nod. "Looking for something in particular?" "Yes," I said, pulling up a photo of my car on my phone. "This, a black 2020 Mercedes-Benz. I believe it was sold recently." Mike frowned and leaned in, scratching his chin. "Camry, huh? Let me check our records." He tapped at his computer for a moment before nodding. "Yeah, it came in 2 days ago. Sold already." My stomach tightened. Sold. "Yup. A guy came in yesterday. Paid cash." "Who?" I asked, my voice sharp. Mike hesitated, then shook his head. "Sorry, we don't give out customer information." I exhaled slowly, trying to stay calm. "Listen," I said, lowering my voice just a little. "That car was sold without my permission. I just need to know who bought it. I won't do anything crazy. I just need to talk to them." Mike hesitated again before sighing. "All right, look, I can't tell you who bought it, but if I happen to leave this invoice here on the counter while I step out for a coffee." He let the sentence hang as he turned and walked toward the break room, leaving his computer screen unlocked. I didn't waste any time. I leaned over, scanning the most recent sale entry. Buyer, Jason Walker, address 742 Riverside Drive. Gotcha. Riverside Drive was a quiet, suburban neighborhood, not the kind of place where people typically buy used cars with cash. That meant one of two things. Jason Walker was either someone who really needed a cheap ride quickly, or he was a middleman flipping the car for profit. Either way, I had to talk to him. I parked a few houses away and walked up to his driveway. There it was, the Camry, parked neatly under a tree, looking exactly like I remembered it, my fists clenched without thinking. I rang the doorbell, and a few moments later, a man in his early 30s answered. He was tall, with a scruffy beard and tired eyes. He gave me a quick look, sizing me up to figure out if I was a salesperson or a problem. Yeah, I kept my face neutral. Are you Jason Walker? Who's asking? My name's Anna. That car in your driveway? It was sold without my consent. I'm here to buy it back. Andrew sighed and rubbed his face. Look, man, I don't want any trouble. I paid good money for that car. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to make this right. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded toward the car. All right, come inside, let's talk. As I stepped into his house, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about getting my car back. This was about making sure my family would never steal from me again. And I was just getting started. Andrew led me into his living room, a modest space with a worn-out couch, a coffee table covered in receipts, and an old TV playing the news at a low volume. The air smelled of stale coffee and cigarette smoke. Look, he said, motioning for me to sit. I get that you're upset, but I didn't steal your car. I paid for it fair and square. I stayed standing. I understand. I'm not accusing you. But I need to know, how much did you pay for it? He sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. 7 grand. Cash. 7 grand. They sold my car, a car I worked so hard to afford, for $7,000. It was worth at least 3 times that amount. My jaw tightened. Did they tell you why they were selling it? Andrew shook his head. Guy said his kid was in trouble, needed money fast. I don't usually ask questions when someone's in a hurry to sell. Typical. My parents had sold my hard-earned car to bail out my brother again. And they did it so quickly they didn't even bother getting a decent price for it. I took a deep breath, trying to think clearly. I could threaten Andrew, demand the car back, but that wouldn't get me anywhere. He wasn't the enemy here, so I changed my approach. Listen, I said, pulling my phone out of my pocket. I'll make you a deal. You bought the car for $7,000, right? Yeah, I'll give you 10. Andrew raised an eyebrow. 10. Cash? Cash. He thought for a moment, then leaned forward. 15. I let out a humorless chuckle. You serious? Look, ma'am, I got a good deal. Sure, but I also paid for new registration, insurance, oil change. Not to mention I already like the car. He leaned back, folding his arms. 15. I wanted to punch a wall, paying double for my own car just to fix my parents' mess. Unbelievable, but I wasn't about to walk away empty-handed. Fine, I said through clenched teeth. 15. I left Andrew's place with my car in a burning determination. This wasn't just about reclaiming what was mine. It was about ensuring they never did this to me again. As I drove back toward my parents' house, my mind raced through possibilities. I had options, plenty of them. And this time, I wasn't going to be the forgiving one. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Mom? Sweetheart? We know you were upset last night. Come home for dinner? Let's talk. I stared at the message, my grip tightening around the wheel. Talk? Talk? They hadn't even apologized. They just expected me to get over it, like I always did, like I always had. Not this time. I typed back a response. Me? Sure, see you tonight. When I pulled into the driveway that evening, my usual parking spot was empty. No sign of the battered sedan that had been there before. I smirked. They must have thought I wasn't coming back from my car, that I'd let it go. Fools. I walked inside to find my parents and my brother already sitting at the dining table. The smell of roasted chicken and garlic mashed potatoes filled the air. Mom's classic, let's make peace meal. Sweetheart, Mom greeted me, standing up to hug me as if nothing had happened. I'm so glad you came. I didn't return the hug. Instead, I pulled out my phone and set it on the table, screen facing up. Dad frowned. What's this? I tapped the screen. A voice recording started playing. Yeah, it came in 2 days ago. Sold already. Sold? Yep. Guy came in yesterday. Paid cash. Who? Sorry, we don't give out customer information. Mom's smile faltered. Dad's face went pale. I went to the dealership, I said, my voice calm but cold. Tracked down the buyer. Paid 15 grand to get my car back. My car, which you sold without my permission. A heavy silence filled the room. You did what? My brother finally blurted out, his fork clattering onto his plate. I got my car back, I repeated. And now we're going to talk about how you're going to pay me back every single cent. Dad shook his head. Sweetheart, that's not how family works. Sometimes we make sacrifices for each other. I slammed my hand down on the table. Sacrifices? I snapped. I make sacrifices. Every time it's me. When is he? I pointed at my brother, who was now shifting uncomfortably in his seat. Ever sacrificed a single thing for me? Mom opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. You know what? I continued. Forget the money. I don't even care about it anymore. What I care about is this. You will never get a single dollar from me again.